Welcome to Revolver Roundup. Friends of the channel that help out, 1791. 5-star speed loaders, Matt's bullets, double tap ammo, Charter arms, TA targets. That's everybody. Anyway, welcome to Revolver Roundup. And today we're going to talk a bit about something that I don't think we think about as much as we should. And that is that 9mm is anemic. And for, you know, a lot of the so-called men that are coming out now, which are debatable to say the most or the least. Anyway, we're going to talk about two cartridges that really ain't guns. And I want to do a comparison between these two guns. Honestly, that's the idea here. And give you a couple opinions on said firearms. And that is 1911s and revolvers. I really like 1911s. I just got my first one, which was a Dan Wesson Specialist. And I gotta say, I'm really enjoying it. They are unique in their feel. They're very cool. And they're just nice, you know, looking pieces of machinery. And very similarly to the revolvers that we all really enjoy on this channel. And I got my 69 here. So, what's the best way to go through this? What is my thought between revolvers and probably put another inch on there. So like a 3-inch revolver would probably be about the same size as this. And I don't know, it's hard to compare the size of fire semis to revolvers. Anyway, so in this one in particular, we're going to be talking 44 Special and 45 ACP. Now, the reason that we're going to do that is because 45 ACP and 44 Special are very similar in a lot of areas. They have very similar pressures. They have very similar bullet weights. They have very similar feet per second. And they're both big bores, or what we consider big bores. 45 obviously is two bigger than 44, because 44 is actually 43. But all that being said, they're very similar. Now, if we look at all the old time guys that knew something about gunfighting, Skeeter Skeleton, Bill Jordan, Jeff Cooper, all them guys. I don't know if verbatim who said who and who said what, Elmer Keith, but between them, most of them all had nice things to say about 44 Special and 45 ACP. And there is a reason for that, and that is that they're both moving about the same speed, and they're both moving about the same weight projectiles, and they both have a reputation of putting bad guys down. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And we're not going to talk about it in this video, but I will do an in-depth on this also. 357 Magnum in its differences, and 357 is drastically different than 44 Special and 45 ACP, and how it works and why it works very well. That is also why these cartridges work and work very well, is on the opposite spectrum of this conversation. And anyway, 44 Special and 45 ACP are both pushing big projectiles, 200 to, I mean honestly, they're very similar, 185 to 240, I would say, 255 you know, stuff like that is kind of like your range. 44 special is always going to be able to go a little heavier, but not by much. And your feet per second is they're right there dancing with each other. 44 special is in its very basic form. I mean, it's right there, 700 something feet per second. And they're very close. And of course, you know, your ranges can go up a bit with 44 special. You know, you can get a lot more out of it than you can with 45 ACP because of case capacity. But for true 44 special guns, you need to stay in that pressure zone of, I don't remember what it is, 20,000, 17, 18,000, 18,000, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, guys. And 45 is 21,000 PSI, I believe. So very similar, both dancing around 20,000 PSI, a little under, a little above, somewhere in there. Whereas a lot of other cartridges that are going faster, you know, you're up in the 30, 35, 40,000 PSI range. There's a video that I want to do and will do when it gets nicer out that I also am not looking forward to do, but I am very curious. How much benefit is there in shooting inside of a vehicle with different PSI rounds? Now, I do realize that if you're in danger and all that, you're not going to think about that. But I'm curious to know if there is a abrupt difference and if one or the other is better. But anyway, now they're both throwing big projectiles downrange. Now, to talk about some of the benefits between the Revolver and the 1911. I have not weighed these, but I'm pretty sure this weighs more than this L frame. But I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it does. I mean, it's a larger mass gun, a lot more steel to it from what I can tell. So I'm pretty sure this weighs more. I'll have to let you know on that one in a different video. I did not prepare there. Now let's talk about function, and then we'll talk about projectiles. So, and I'll talk to you about which one I would choose. Now, I like a lot of things about the 1911. The 1911 has very safe design to it, which I appreciate because the striker fired stuff to me is ridiculous. Safeties are in place for mental brain farts, and the emotion of pressing a trigger without having a stop in there if you're not thinking, which if you have a firearm in your hand and need to use it or anything, you need to be thinking about it. And I hate to say it, but you have people have brain farts, you know, like one time I was cooking something in the oven, or I shouldn't say I was cooking, I was getting something out of the oven. I don't cook. And I had a total brain fart for, I don't know what it was. I put on the mitt that stops you from burning your hand, and I left one or two of my fingers hang out the side. I grabbed that pan, and man, oh man, did you know, or did I know, that whatever temperature that was hot. And, you know, that's a mental brain fart. I can't tell you if I've ever done that again, you know, in my whole existence of being around. I don't think I've ever done that. That's a one-time thing. But firearms and projectiles, a one-time thing can be a no take-back thing. You know, like once a bullet leaves the end of a muzzle, you can't bring it back. And so that's why I'm a big fan of having mental barriers for mental farts. So first, we have a single-action firearm. Now, with it being a single-action firearm, that means that you can't pull a trigger. It's not going to go off. You have to have the hammer back for it to go off. But what we do have is we have this heel safety. I think they call it heel safety. I don't know what the technical term is. Heel safety is what I'm going to call it. Grip safety, something. So if that is not compressed, It's not going to let the gun go off. It's not going to drop the hammer. That has to be compressed. And then you also have this very big manual safety that also disconnects or blocks. I think it blocks the hammer. I'm not sure which one it does, but one of the two. It stops it from being able to be fired. So you have two physical barriers in place to stop you from pressing the firearm. Now, if you wanted to unload this for stowing or something, you could now take the mag out. As long as that heel safety is not pressed all the way and you have that safety up, you drop the mag out. And you gotta always remember this, guys. You gotta take the mag out with all semis. The magazine here. Let me get the magazine for you. Anyway, gotta take the magazine out, and then you have to take the one out of the chamber. And once you do that, you'd have to drop this one, and you don't have to press your heel safety, so you can take the round out. So there's a lot of fail safes in place to make this a safe way of, handling, manipulating, everything of that nature. Now that might be a lot of things to kind of retain, especially if you're not going to go and practice a lot, which you should, but not everybody does. The revolver has a very different set of reasons why it's safe. I don't ever recommend using the hammer really for anything. And what that does is it gives you a very nice trigger pull. But it's not what you want to practice with any like defensive firearm that you use in thought of as a defensive firearm. The thing here that makes this safe, especially if you have something that doesn't have a hammer or you don't use the hammer, I very rarely ever touch the hammer. You can always take and pop the cylinder out to make sure there's nothing in it. And if you can see that there is brass in it, you can see that right off the side, it's loaded. So if you can't see the brass off the side, it's not loaded. That works with most revolvers. There's a couple that doesn't work with because they're recessed and you can't really see. But it takes 3 seconds to pop the cylinder out. Okay. Now you don't have to think about racking the slide, anything like that. As soon as this cylinder is closed, it's ready to go. The thing with revolvers that make them such good carry guns when you're going to be at your slowest, I guess, in your thought process, because you're worried about other things if you're in a defensive scenario, is that it's ready. It's ready to go. As soon as you take it out, it's ready to go. Revolvers have a long trigger pull, and it should be a smooth trigger pull. That's what you want in a good revolver, is a long, smooth trigger pull. And so you'd have to mess up pretty good to go through that entire travel by accident. You can easily place your finger on there and be ready, or whatever is going on. And you can even, I have to mentally tell my finger, hey, I got to press this. It's time to use it. With 1911s, this is one of their big benefits, is if you don't have that safety on, you have to take that safety down. These triggers they're nice, but they're very quick and they don't take much. So if you're in a stressful situation, you could very easily break a shot, because of that. Now, I'm not telling you that, 1911s are cool. They're cooler than any polymer gun. I really, really am liking this one, and I probably will end up with a couple more because they're cool and they're just super American and they're just awesome. With this though, it's a very easy to comprehend in a stressful situation of what is happening. And if this cylinder's closed and there's rounds in it, it's ready to go. And you mentally have to tell, your finger, hey, let's press this and make some noise here. So that's kind of the thing with that. Now let's talk about ballistics, or not exactly ballistics, but projectiles. 1911s, a lot of their issues that they have is pretty much like 95% magazine related, from what I can tell. I've never had an issue with this gun, and I've never really had an issue with any revolver. Honestly, that wasn't something that I knew what it was, and it was caused by me. Now, the one thing between revolvers and auto loaders, as they would say back in the day, is I can use any shape projectile that I want in my revolver, because I don't have to worry about the feeding issue or anything of that nature. So I can use something like this, which has, you know, a huge cavity for the hollow point, and it's also a semi-wad cutter. For a lot of 1911s and semis in general, you can't really get extreme cavities a lot of the time, because it's just, you know, inherent that you want whatever you're feeding to be, like, would be the word, the same, I guess, or you know, similar all the way around, so you have that reliable feed. And you never really see big hollow points on semi-auto cartridges, really. You don't see it very often, and that's part of that reason of why. 44 special and 45 ACP with good working hollow points, they work, and they will work really well. They're going to open up, and they're you know, good rounds. And back in the old days, before we had, like, you know, the hollow point thing, because hollow points are, you know, kind of a relatively new thing. Back in the day, it was really just lead, and especially for the shooting population, it was really just lead bullets and or jacketed bullets. That was really it. You didn't really see a lot of hollow points around. The hollow point thing, I really don't think got started until the mid to late 70s, I believe. I could be wrong on that. Any of you guys that were around to know, you let me know on that. But that's, for my research, that's what I can tell. And big, wide bullets are always going to be better than a rounded bullet. And the wider, and with a flatter tip, you know, you're causing this crushing instead of slipping maneuver that's going to happen. And those are the two big things of, you know, these two different platforms. I really like the 1911. I want to shoot it more, get used to it, because the trigger pull is very weird compared to shooting revolvers all the time. Now, as far as carry goes, would I carry a 1911? Sure, why not? Am I going to carry it all of the time? No. Revolvers are always going to be the king of carry for me, because of the we didn't even talk about entanglements or, you know, anything like that. In my home, sure, why not? And especially this one, where you can put a light on it, you know, it works good for the home. But again, the benefits for defensive work with a revolver, to me, you can't really outweigh it in any thing that I can think of off the top of my head. Guys, I'm going to call that on this video. That's going to be it right there. Really appreciate you. Subscribe. We are back on the YouTube, so, you know, if you could please subscribe back over there, and also on this, or Rumble. We're on Rumble and YouTube. Subscribe to both of them, please. But we just came back to YouTube, and we're hoping that, you know, we can figure out what was going on there, and actually produce stuff over there again, and, you know, do what we did before. The verse of the day, we're going to go to Proverbs again. So I like Proverbs. Proverbs is the only one you can take and use right at face value without context, really. Do not wisdom cry and understanding put forth her voice. She standeth in the top of the high places by the way, in the places of the paths. She crieth at the gate, at the entry of the city, at the coming in, at the doors unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of man. Ye simple, understand wisdom, and ye fools, be ye of an understanding heart. So, let's read that. Guys, see you soon. Lord willing.